Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to start today's presentation with you. Today, we'll be exploring the topic of sentence completion. On this first slide, I just want to give you a quick overview of what to expect. We'll look at different strategies for completing sentences effectively, and I'll share some practical tips along the way. Let's get started and dive into this interesting subject together. Now, let's take a closer look at the subject matter. This section is really the core of our presentation. It covers what the questions are actually asking about, which is essential for developing your understanding and approach. By mastering the subject matter, you'll be better equipped to analyze the context of each sentence and identify the key clues. This is what helps you make informed choices and ultimately improve your accuracy. Remember, grasping the subject matter connects directly to the overall goal of strengthening your skills with sentence completion questions. So, keep this part in mind as we move forward. Welcome to this part of the presentation. On this slide, we're focusing on the introduction. I want to take a moment to explain the key points thoroughly, but in a conversational way. The introduction sets the stage for everything that follows, so it's important to understand its role. First, we want to highlight the most important concepts, what the main message is, and why it matters. This helps us connect with the overall theme of the presentation, which is about understanding the core ideas and their impact. By establishing a clear introduction, we make sure everyone is on the same page and ready to dive deeper into the details. It's about creating context and engaging your audience right from the start. Let's delve into the key aspects of this type of question. When you see a sentence with one or two blanks, it indicates that something has been omitted, and your task is to fill in those blanks correctly. Below the sentence, you'll find 4 or 5 options. These are the choices you can consider. The goal is to select the word or set of words that, when inserted, make the sentence most meaningful and grammatically correct. These questions are designed to assess several important skills. First, they test your understanding of correct sentence structure, ensuring the sentence is clear and coherent. Second, they evaluate your vocabulary, choosing words that fit the context appropriately. And third, they check your applied grammar, using rules of grammar accurately to form correct sentences. Remember, the focus is on choosing the most suitable option that maintains the sentence's overall meaning and flow. This exercise not only boosts your language proficiency, but also enhances your ability to recognize correct grammatical patterns and vocabulary usage in context. So, always read the sentence carefully, consider the context, and think about which choice best fits both the meaning and grammatical structure. Let's take a closer look at the subject matter. Here, I want to emphasize that understanding the core concepts is essential for grasping the bigger picture. We'll explore the key points thoroughly, but keep the conversation natural and approachable. The most important ideas to remember are highlighted because they form the foundation of the overall theme we're discussing. Connecting these points helps us see how each piece fits into the larger puzzle, giving us a clearer picture of the topic as a whole. So, as we go through this, keep in mind how these elements come together to support the main message of our presentation. Let's talk about the subject matter of sentence completion questions. These questions can relate to a wide range of topics like science, geography, general knowledge, history, literature, and more. The key thing to remember is that the subject itself doesn't really affect your language ability. What matters most is your understanding of correct grammar and vocabulary. In these tests, what's being evaluated is your ability to choose the right words and use them correctly. It's a great way to get an idea of your memory and how well you can apply that knowledge at the right moment. When you look at a sentence with blanks, your goal is to pick the best word or pair of words from the options given. You want to select the one that makes the sentence's meaning complete and coherent. So overall, these questions are less about the subject itself and more about your language skills, your vocabulary, your understanding of grammar, and your ability to connect ideas smoothly. And that's what makes these questions a valuable tool in assessing your language proficiency. Let's talk about how to answer sentence completion questions effectively. First, it's all about understanding what the question is asking. You want to identify the key clues in the sentence that hint at the correct answer. These clues often come from context words or the overall tone of the sentence. Next, it's important to eliminate answer choices that don't fit logically or contextually. This process helps narrow down your options and increases your chances of choosing the right one. Remember, the goal is to find the word that best completes the sentence in a way that makes sense both grammatically and contextually. Connecting these strategies to the bigger picture, mastering sentence completion questions enhances your overall reading comprehension and critical thinking skills, which are essential for success on this exam. So, stay attentive to clues, eliminate unlikely options, and always verify your choice fits seamlessly into the sentence. All right, let's talk through how to approach sentence completion questions effectively. First, make sure to read the sentence carefully and really try to understand what it means. This helps you get a clear sense of what kind of word or phrase will fit best. Next, eliminate answer choices that clearly don't meet the criteria you've established from your understanding of the sentence. This narrows down your options and makes the process more manageable. When tackling these questions, start with the ones you find easier. If you get stuck on a particular question, it's often best to leave it and come back to it later. Sometimes, a fresh look can make a difference. If, after reviewing it again, you're still unsure, it's better to make an educated guess rather than leave it blank. Pay special attention to the blank or blanks in the sentence and consider their relation to the overall meaning. Ask yourself, does the sentence require a negative or positive connotation? If there are two blanks, think about whether the relationship between the words should be comparative, contrasting, or complementary. Also, consider if you're looking for a term that best defines a phrase in the sentence. Finally, read the sentence again, trying out each remaining choice one by one. Ask yourself which option is most exact, most appropriate, or most likely based on the context. The key is to determine which choice does the best job of completing the sentence in a way that makes the most sense overall. This process helps you choose the most accurate answer confidently. Let's look at some examples with explanatory answers to help clarify these concepts. As we go through each one, I'll walk you through the key points and highlight what to focus on. The idea here is to see how these principles apply in real situations, making the ideas more tangible and easier to understand. Remember, the goal is to connect these examples back to the overall theme of effective problem solving and clear communication. By analyzing these scenarios, you'll gain a better sense of how to approach similar challenges in your own work. So, let's dive into the first example and unpack it together. Now, let's look at some examples with explanatory answers. On this slide, you'll see a direction that asks you to select the appropriate word from the choices provided to fill in the blanks. This exercise is designed to test your understanding of the concepts we've discussed so far. As you go through the examples, pay close attention to the context clues and the grammatical cues that help determine the correct word. Remember, the goal here is to reinforce your learning by applying the rules we've covered in a practical way. These exercises also highlight common pitfalls and how to avoid them, which is crucial for mastering the material. So, as we work through each example, think aloud and reason out your choices. This will really help solidify your understanding and improve your confidence in applying these concepts independently. Now let's look at example 1. The sentence is, "My father me that I should have informed him." We are given 4 options: said, asked, told, and tell. The key here is to understand how indirect speech works. Since the sentence is in indirect narration, we can't simply use said because said is more general and often used in direct speech. When transforming into indirect speech, asked is only appropriate if the original sentence was a question, like, "Did you tell me?" But here, it's a statement, so asked isn't suitable. The correct answer is told, because when you report someone giving information or instructions indirectly, told fits perfectly. Also, notice that told is followed by an object like me, which is grammatically correct in this context. This example highlights an important rule. In indirect speech, said is often replaced by told when conveying information. And if the original sentence was a question, then asked would be appropriate, but not here. So, understanding these nuances, helps us communicate more accurately and clearly when reporting speech indirectly. Now let's look at example 2. The sentence is, "He was of all the valuable possessions." We have 4 options here: robbed, pinched, stolen, and established. The key point is understanding the correct verb to complete this sentence logically and grammatically. The correct answer is option A, robbed. It's important to note why other options don't fit. For instance, stolen is a past participle, and we need a verb form that fits the sentence structure better. Was robbed makes perfect sense. Also, pinched might seem similar, but in this context, it doesn't convey the right sense of depriving someone of their possessions. And established obviously doesn't fit because it has a completely different meaning related to setting something up. The main takeaway here is understanding how to choose the right verb based on context and grammatical correctness. This example ties into our overall theme of improving vocabulary and sentence construction skills, which are crucial for clear and precise communication. All right, let's look at example 3. The question asks, "Those who feel that war is stupid and unnecessary think that to die on the battlefield is." Now, the options are A, courageous, B, pretentious, C, useless, and D, illegal. The correct answer here is C, useless. What this tells us is that the attitude expressed by the sentence is really key. If someone believes that war is stupid and unnecessary, they would logically see a death on the battlefield as pointless or useless. That's the main idea behind the correct choice. Now, it's important to understand why the other options don't fit as well. For instance, A, courageous. While it's true that dying bravely in battle can be seen as courageous, that's not the perspective of someone who thinks war is stupid and unnecessary. They wouldn't see such a death as brave, they'd see it as pointless. Similarly, B, pretentious means affectedly grand or ostentatious. That doesn't connect to the idea of war being stupid. It's not about being showy or grand, it's about the value or point of the death. And D, illegal doesn't really fit either, because dying in battle isn't inherently illegal. It's more about the attitude towards war itself. So the key takeaway here is that understanding the attitude behind the statement helps us pick the right answer. This example ties into the overall theme of how attitudes and perspectives influence our understanding of words and situations. Let's look at example 4. In this sentence, we hear the phrase, "If you hear the of a gun." Now, the key word here is report. When we talk about the sound of an explosion, whether it's from a gunshot or even a car backfiring, we refer to it as a report. Notice that the options include burst, retort, report, and flash. The correct choice is report, because it specifically describes the sound of a gun or explosion. Recognizing this word helps us understand how different sounds are described in English, which is essential for both comprehension and effective communication. So remember, a report is the sound of an explosion or gunshot, and this concept ties back to the overall theme of understanding precise vocabulary in context. Now let's look at example 5. The sentence reads, "He demanded obedience from us and was always telling us we must be subjects." The options are A, total, foolish, B, partial, cringing, C, formal, rigorous, and D, complete, compliant. The key point here is understanding the nature of the obedience being demanded. When someone demands obedience, especially in a context like this, partial or marginal obedience is unlikely. The best fit is option D, complete obedience and compliant subjects. Complete emphasizes that nothing is held back, it's total obedience. And compliant describes subjects who follow orders willingly and obediently, aligning well with the idea of demanding obedience. This example ties into the broader theme of authority and submission, showing how language choice reveals the intensity of the demand and the nature of the relationship. So remember, in such contexts, complete and compliant are the most precise and impactful words to convey the message. All right, let's look at this example. We are going to have to face the reality that the resources of Earth are. And here, the key point is understanding the correct word choices. The answer is C, eventually, finite. This means that over time, we will realize that Earth's resources are limited. Unlike options like worthless or limitless, which don't accurately reflect the true nature of Earth's resources, finite really captures the idea that there is a limit, something we need to recognize for sustainable planning. This ties back to the overall theme of resource management and the importance of being aware of our planet's limitations. It's a reminder that as we proceed, understanding the finite nature of these resources is crucial for making responsible decisions. Let's take a look at example 7. The sentence says, "One reunion was completely. Who'd have guessed we would have booked the same flight?" Now, the options are illogical, expected, fortuitous, and abandoned. The key here is understanding the context. The sentence suggests that the reunion was a surprising or chance occurrence. So, which word best fits that idea? Illogical and abandoned don't quite match the tone. Illogical implies something doesn't make sense, and abandoned suggests something left behind, neither fitting the idea of a fortunate or surprising reunion. Expected, on the other hand, means it was predictable, which doesn't align with the surprise element in the sentence. The best choice is fortuitous, which means happening by chance in a lucky or fortunate way. That perfectly captures the idea that the reunion was a happy accident, unexpected but pleasant. So the correct answer is B, fortuitous. Remember, this example highlights how context clues help us choose the right vocabulary, which is essential for understanding and communicating effectively. All right, let's look at example 8. The sentence is, "The presence of armed guards us from doing anything disruptive." Now, the key word here is from, which indicates prevention or stopping something from happening. If we consider the options, defeated doesn't quite fit because it implies losing or overcoming, which doesn't make sense in this context. Excited and irritated are emotions, and they don't logically connect to the idea of guards preventing disruption. The correct choice is prevented, which means to stop something from happening. Armed guards are meant to prevent any kind of disruption. That's their primary purpose. This example highlights an important point about vocabulary. Understanding the nuance of words like prevent helps us choose the most precise option in context. It also ties into our overall theme of effective communication. Selecting the right words ensures clarity and accuracy. So always pay attention to context clues like from to pick the best verb, especially in situations involving prevention or causation. All right, let's wrap things up with some key takeaways. First, we've explored how the main concepts connect and support our overall theme. It's important to remember the significance of each point and how they interrelate. We also emphasize the practical implications and potential applications of what we've discussed. By understanding these core ideas thoroughly, we can better apply them in real-world situations. So, in conclusion, staying focused on these essential concepts will help us make more informed decisions and drive meaningful progress. Thanks for your attention, and I hope this overview clarifies the main messages we've covered. Thank you for your attention. In conclusion, I want to emphasize the key points we've covered today. First, we've explored the main challenges and opportunities within our industry. Second, we discussed the strategies that can help us navigate these effectively. And finally, I hope you now see how these insights connect to our overall goals of growth and innovation. Remember, the success of our efforts depends on our collective understanding and commitment. So, thank you once again for being such an engaged audience. I look forward to working together to implement these ideas and achieve great results.